my camera and my audio just decided, hey, I'm just gonna mess with you. And as I reviewed it, I was like, well, I can't put this out, and fuck me. Um, so we're doing this again. Uh, so it's 6 p.m. on a Wednesday. Uh, and I couldn't think of a better way to talk about the Sound of Freedom with all of you guys. So I want to jump into it. Okay. Uh, First and foremost, the movie. So let's explain the movie a little bit. So Sound of Freedom, as a lot of people may know, and we're getting into spoiler territory, guys. Delicious spoilers. Okay. The movie is about a it has Jim Caviezel in it and this dude named Tim something. It was Tim. Hold on, I have it here. Tim Ballard, right? And apparently Tim Ballard worked is a real dude who worked for Homeland Security and specifically worked as an agent to get to stop human trafficking, essentially, to stop child human trafficking, to be exact. And in the beginning of the film, you see his character set up to be, this guy who is very much about protecting children and protecting, the innocence of children and bringing them back to their families and whatnot. And he gets into like he gets into very, I wouldn't say I mean, they're a little off the beaten track by befriending certain child sex traffickers or pedophiles and get them to essentially give out the truth or give themselves away just so that he can set himself up to at least Tim's case, set himself up to arrest these pedophiles. And then so the story really centers around these two kids. At least the plot does. But we only really focus on Tim and his story. Yeah, so moving along, what the story is about. It's about getting these two kids out of the sex trafficking ring after a dad who was very excited for their kids to get a prospect in hopes of becoming an actor or an actress or child actors and whatnot. And the dad takes them both to an apartment in the middle of Honduras and tells them to come back. Tells the dad to come back because they're going to be running a whole bunch of stuff and they can't allow parents to be there, which is already horrible and very, very weird. And of course, he comes back later that day to pick them up, and they're gone. So it's a whole mission that requires Tim to essentially get those kids back. And the lengths that he goes through to get the boy back, I'm trying to remember. I think he gets it by just a random security checkpoint or like a random checkpoint in on the border, and just basically like checks this dude out. It just looks at his ID, looks at him, and then just arrests him. And got the kid back because the kid was sitting in the back seat, and the identity matches and whatnot. So they're like, fuck this guy. We're gonna arrest him, take the kid back, and then bring him back to his father, and go back to search for the sister and whatnot. And the process, like in which that he goes about getting the sister is also a little befuddling that we're going to talk about. But basically, he sets up an island to or with a cartel dude, or at least a dude who worked in the cartel or was part of the cartel. But basically, he was a bad dude, and he accidentally slept with somebody who he thought was of age, but turns out it was a child who was trafficked, and he just kind of had so much depression and remorse, and so he hated himself until he, like Tim, felt that this was their mission from God by the way of like what the mistakes are and what they both did in their past or didn't do, I guess, because we didn't really know much about Tim's past, which I again we're gonna talk about later, and gets these kids, or at least finally gets this plan of getting these known human traffickers, these known child traffickers, to get to an island that Tim and the ex-cartel dude and a random billionaire that loves to work with the U.S. randomly and likes to gloat, apparently, to that he works for the U.S. and doing all this shit. I don't know. That was a little confusing, but he gets to the point where they set up a meeting with all these known human traffickers and just basic criminals, right? And gets them on an island that they procured, meaning Tim and the cartel dude. Yes, literally, cops developed an Epstein-like island to get kids onto that said island, and they eventually get raided by the police, and the police comes in, the Colombian police, and arrests them all, essentially. Except for one dude that I was a little confused about. But other than that, that was basically that, right? And you would think because, the operation was successful, they got the sex traffickers arrested, but unfortunately, out of all of like I guess 50 kids that were there on the island, there was only there was one that Tim wanted, and that was the little girl to the father's daughter, and the boy's brother, or the boy's sister, sorry. And unfortunately didn't see her, so she wasn't on the island, and he still has that success of rescuing these 50 kids. But of course it wasn't enough for him, so he says, you know what, we got to go deeper and further beyond, and we got to find this girl. And they somehow got information on another island that she was basically a slave to these rebels, I guess, and probably done worse shit to them, and whatnot, which is horrible. It's all disgusting, right? But basically, Tim gets there, and how he gets there is by disguising as a doctor, because of course they don't allow cops. They're not going to allow anybody unless it has something that will benefit them. So what better way of sneaking onto an island than pretending to be a doctor? How did they get away with that? It beats me, and I watched the film, and it beats me because they get to the island. So Tim gets to the island, and also the cartel dude, who was also disguised as a doctor. Then both of them were stopped by a band of rebels on a boat, and was like, "Oh, we can only take one of you with us. We can't allow you both." So the cartel dude falls back. Then Jim Caviezel's character, Tim, then goes forward and, gets to the island. And sure enough, he finds a girl and gets her off the island, which is arguably way worse, right? Because these are rebels with guns, and there's dozens of them. And the moment they find out that, the girl is being taken away because a dude wanted to, like, the head dude of that island of the rebels, I guess, wanted to, just essentially abuse this poor girl. And he gets close, but then, of course, Tim, being the hero, he gets her, or he gets her by killing him. And the rebels then chase after them. They get away. The girl reunites with the dad. Boom, the story ends. Now, a few things. I do understand, and this is not to discredit any of the YouTube reviewers at all, because I think you guys do really great content. The one thing that I didn't quite understand with a lot of the reviews, except for one that talked about it, was probably like some of the, like, one of the most egregious like endings to all this, to encapsulate it all, and that was after the credits, a button scene, Marvel style, where you see Jim Caviezel compare his film Sound of Freedom to Uncle Tom's Cabin, which is a very weird and interesting way to compare something that is like a horrible thing in our US history by way of white people literally enslaving an entire race of people, of black people, who saw them as nothing less of a human, right? And that is a horrible, horrible thing that happened. And you compare that to child sex trafficking, which, yeah, is very... It's very bad, but in terms of the way that this country still deals with systemic racism, especially towards black people and black communities, I don't understand why you would make that comparison when there are thousands of other comparisons that are way better to compare it to than to what is something that ultimately we are still going through today. Yes, we're not racist towards each other, although I'd like to argue that a lot of people are. Just go to a few towns here in Texas. I'm sure you'll find something. But either way, though, it is not something to compare when literally Jim Caviezel said, this is about storytelling and these are for storytellers. Uncle Tom's Cabin, I mean, yeah, you can say it's a story. It's a point of that is a very crazy thing to compare to, a very racist thing to compare to. But again, it's not my cup of joe, and the movie wasn't really my cup of tea. It's just that ending really solidified that, like, oh yeah, this isn't great. This is not a great message you want to put out there. And it was a message about like, oh, if you like this film, please share it with everybody. Which you would think that's like, oh, he's just hustling the film no matter what. That's cool. But the way he says it in the end, he makes it seem like as if it's like, oh, if this story is very impactful to you and you want to help, meaning like, help with stopping child sex trafficking, okay, yeah, tell me what I have to do. He then says, share this movie and share this QR code that pops up in the middle of the screen, or I guess on the bottom, wherever, and says, scan this QR code and share it with all your friends so that they too can participate in something that we can all band together and stop. Which, I mean, I understand the valiant effort. I would never make the Uncle Tom's Cabin comparison, but yeah, I don't know if that's the right way of going about it, especially when you want to say that you want to stop child sex trafficking by way of telling people, hey, we want more people to watch this film. So please share this with everybody and spread the good word of Sound of Freedom. Yeah, I don't know. This movie this movie I had a lot of thoughts about. I watched it yesterday, and after watching the footage back, I needed to re-record this because I wanted to. I felt like I was a little all over the place with that one, and it was just the audio was horrible. So I felt like to come back and really talk about this in a way that, because I thought to myself, after watching like a lot of these reviews, a lot of these people really gave it good like reviews. Like they're saying like this is great. Aside from all the controversy shit, it's all fucking. It's such a great, amazing film that finally isn't a Marvel film. Which, I mean, if you really look at it, it's definitely a Marvel film. It's definitely a Marvel film for dads, for sure, or for parents who are very much inspired by, very reactionary information. Which, again, I understand that this idea and thought of what this film is really about at its core isn't necessarily that, but it is, though. It is definitely centered in politics, for sure. Even religion, too. Because throughout the film, the Americans' response, at least by way of the Homeland Security Director, which shout out to him. I forgot his name, but he's one of those actors who I remembered even growing up, and he's a good actor. But anyways, doesn't matter. I noticed that like most of the reaction is from America is just like we don't know, but if you think that you have a pretty good case on saving these children, please by all means go ahead and save these children. And that was a scene that Tim and the director had, the director of Homeland Security. And it was a very emotional scene. I will admit that. It was a very emotional scene because the director asks, is like, you want to do this so bad. Why do you want to do this? You've done this for over a decade, and you want these kids. Why? And the reason he gave is that I forgot. I actually forgot. Other than that, I think he said. I think he was comparing it to like if they were your kids, you would want to do something about it. I'm pretty sure, which is like the same thing what the dad said to him. The dad with the missing children. I think that's the same thing he said, but I could be wrong. But anyways, he gave this this plea of wanting to go back to South America and get these kids out, specifically the daughter, and the director gave the green light and was totally cool. Then, about 3/4 of the way, approaching the third act, the director said, "You're in too deep. You can't keep going with this. This is bad for you, and this is bad for us, and you're gonna need to come back to fucking the United States." And after all that fucking time, and I understand it's kind of like a movie trope with cops and it's just, like whatever. But again, it's just it's one of those things where I'm like, okay, so the US government is basically saying, "Oh, yeah, we want you to use resources on saving these kids, but because we're so military the fuck out, we can't allow you to spend a ton of money on it. So yeah, you're in too deep. We're gonna need to get you back to the United States." Which, I mean, it's whatever. It's whatever. And that's basically the majority of the film for me. Is just it's whatever. It's I wouldn't say it's amazing, But I wouldn't necessarily say it's horrible, because let me tell you the good things about this film. The cinematography, while it's good, there were definitely some opportunities that I saw. Maybe it was edited, maybe something happened, I don't know. But there's so many great opportunities of having amazing shots, like going through the river to the second island in the third act to save the girl. Definitely could have gotten like Apocalypse Now vibes, with like the water and the tree, and how, the sun would like cast the shadows on the trees and whatnot, and just having this feeling of like openness but very secluded, very just like Apocalypse Now, like just have this central thing that you shoot, but like we are on the boat, we see the great setting for what it is and how beautiful the jungle is, despite it being fucking horribly dangerous and people wanting to kill you, much less animals that want to kill you and whatnot. Yeah, there was definitely some opportunities that could have been there, but a couple of good things. I I wanted I do like seeing how it was all sort of unfolding in the first act. And then okay, so I liked the things that were unfolding, right? Like I liked in the first act and the second act they had this, whole plan of like, hey, we're going to do this Epstein Island-esque raid, and we're going to do this, we're going to get the kids, we're going to get all this, and hopefully that girl will be there, and then happily ever after, right? The one thing that I wish they did do was that they end the film there. You know what I mean? I wish they end the film right on the second island, or the first island, sorry, where he thought Tim was gonna see that girl again, and the little girl wasn't there, because there's only a few of those children that were selected, and that was basically on purpose to ensure that there's going to be trust with Tim and the ex cartel dude and the billionaire, right? To establish that trust and know that there's going to be a repertoire, that the island is definitely going to be the place to be at, I guess, right? Travel destination for pedophiles, essentially. And I felt like that would have been a strong ender, because it wouldn't be like, because then you would have been full circle in understanding that there are just not just this one child, but so many children who were trafficked. And I felt like the character of Tim just kind of casted that by the wayside, and was just like, no, but it's these two kids. It's these kids that I need to get. And I promised this little boy who gave me his necklace, I said Tim's name on it for some reason. I don't know why. I got to complete this mission for him, for that little boy, so he could get his sister back, which, yeah, is a great thing. But again, we're casting all these unfortunate victims all to the side, where I feel like you can catch a lot more attention by having the story just become that. You know what I mean? And still had the dad just come back full circle and just basically have that heart-to-heart conversation with with Tim, and I don't know, just end it in a way that, yeah, it's a sad ending, but you got to understand that, like, there's, with so many kids going through this, you kind of have to take the dub for what it is. And that is that you've done this for 12 fucking years, and you've captured, according to him, 288 traffickers, I think? Or was it children? I think it was traffickers. I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Oh, so it was 288 traffickers. I wrote it down. Um, which yeah, that's great. Then why don't the message just be that it's not something that is like this individual thing that you connect to, but you lose focus on the overall objective of when you zoom out and see that like, oh, you've actually done some really good fucking like things for these families and these unfortunate children that are succumb to this horrific environment and horrific traumatic circumstance that no child should ever be part of, but it happens, right? And more children let this happen. The other thing that was sort of like it boggled my mind, I'll say, was that why South America? Because this is happening all over the world, including here in the United States. So why South America? The entire movie basically set itself up as that like, oh, Honduras and Colombia and all these South American countries are all. This is like the continent is the hub of child sex trafficking. At least that's what it made it seem to be. So in my mind, I'm like, oh, so this is where ground zero is for any illegal activity, essentially, which is definitely strange because illegal activity happens everywhere, including sex trafficking. You know, I mean, with Taken, I think it was like what in Russia? No, it was like Bulgaria. I don't know, but you know, I'm sure somebody will let me know. But either way, it's like you have this central idea that like if you want to make this film about that, I think you gotta go a little bit more broader. You gotta go worldwide with this because then it'll show to the audience that like not only this is a problem, but this is a global epidemic that will never go away. It'll never go away unless we talk about this, unless we do something and get Congress to really engage with the horrible atrocities that are happening. And yes, I did see by the end of the film that they had their little blurbs and said that like, oh, the United States had this is going through this right now and slavery is still a thing all over the world. Which, yeah, I agree, but then show it. You know what I mean? Show that work. I don't want to necessarily see like just only about Tim while the character is fine. I found him interesting, but like I mean the reasons why he's there, I don't really know other than that it's like a mission from God, sort of Blues Brothers style, you know? Where it's inexplicable and he's there because he wants to save the children. Like the Blues Brothers there. They just want to express the blues and play the blues the way that they know how. You know, which is fine, but again, it's like if your message is about the dangers and the horrific circumstances of sex trafficking and child trafficking, it's apparent to show how fucked up it is and why it's fucked up and the reasons for that and the impetus and where we will go as a society moving forward, you know, in terms of like, you know, how we react to some of this shit, right? So yeah, I thought the movie was okay. I didn't necessarily think that, and for all the controversy with it too, it was all the more confusing while I was watching the film, right? Because it was like there could be a unifying degree of like, you know, like there could have been an authentic way of expressing like the dangers of all this without making the main dude sort of like a Marvel hero, I guess, because the process in which like he was going about like all these things, it was just like it was just like that one mission that meant the world to him, and it's these kids. And it's like, okay, so then what about these kids? It's like, well, these kids are human, are being trafficked. Okay, aren't there other kids? What makes these kids stand out from the others? And I think there could have been a lot more to say with the father dynamic, and could have been a lot more to say with the father and Tim, because Tim is also a father as well, and we only see a bit of his family for like I think one scene, and his wife for 2 scenes, and that was a thing that kind of struck me as weird, because like I would have easily added a scene. Here I am retroactively writing this again. I'm not. There's nothing against the director. I think is Alejandro. Yeah, Alejandro Monteverde. And there's nothing against him and his way of storytelling at all. I do think though that like if you want to make this really impactful, you got to choose one or the other. You got to either make this story like give him all of the more reasons why you are rooting for this dude finding these kids, which ultimately you do, but only because of the circumstance that it is, right? Because it's arguable that as adults, like we kind of understand this and we know it to be like a horrible thing, yet it's a global thing, right? So if you want to really make that impactful, make it so where you have Jim Caviezel's character and the dad's character sort of like join forces, but under a unifying cause, and know that like anything can happen, and don't be so don't be heartbroken if it's news that you don't want to hear, essentially, which is all the more heartbreaking, right? Because then you want this father to win, you want this father to get his kids back, but he doesn't, because I feel like that's the reality for most of these families, is that they give up their kids to something that they ultimately don't understand for circumstances that is beyond their own, and they're gone. That's it. And that's a horrible, horrible, fucked up thing to happen. And I know that that happens all the time. So again, that's why I say it's like a Marvel film, because by the third act, it's like he gets the little girl and then just runs through the jungle in like an escape plan, which is I mean, like, it could have, I don't know. There's been several movies that I've seen that are like this, and I can't really hold it against the director for this with Sound of Freedom, because a lot of movies do this same sort of thing, which is like you get to the third act and it's sort of like all things kind of like gone out the window, and it's just about the action. It's just about like, okay, let's just get the intensity and the action moving so that, it doesn't feel like it's just going to end on such a horrible, abrupt note, which I get. But yeah, they really they really kind of went out on a limb with this one, and I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing, because I do feel that filmmakers need to be taking chances way more, and producers along with studios need to accept those chances and accept those challenges, because that's the only reason why you're going to get that film even made in the first place. Now, for anybody who has seen Sound of Freedom and thought it was great, I am no one to shit on your experience. Like, that is completely not what I do. I'm just giving you my honest opinion, and that is that I found the film is okay. It's okay. I do I do wish it tackled the issue a little harder and not feel so lost within the plot and with the character and not really like pay attention to one or the other, right? Because if you're going to pay attention to the plot, then let's just make this about the kids. And if you're going to pay attention to the character, okay, well, then make it about the character and his wants and his needs. Not to say that you can't have both in a film. It's just hard to do that, especially in a 2-hour span. It's very, very hard to do that. So it's best to just kind of pick one or the other in a way. And that's just kind of how I felt about it. Not to shit on anyone's opinions or how they felt about it, but that's just how I felt. And moving on to the controversy with this film, I don't know if a lot of you are familiar with it, but TikTok, the most just a little independent app that I don't know if a lot of people are going to be on or that they care about, but TikTok is okay. I guess. There's gonna be that one comment that's just gonna I'm gonna get that one person that's just gonna tell me, is be like, you fucking think TikTok is not that big of a dude. It's the biggest thing of the world. I'm just whatever, doesn't matter. Anyways, the controversy around Sound of Freedom was more or less hilarious in my opinion because well, first off, there's a few things, right? First controversy that was on TikTok that I felt this controversy was what got me to watch the film in the first place, and I gotta say, you did a great job, TikTok. You did a great job. Shout out to that user. I don't want to plug her shit because whatever, doesn't matter. I just thought the controversy, and it was not just that person, it was so many other people who were kind of saying the same thing, that the AC was broken during the showing of this, and that is a way that maybe the US government and AMC are in cahoots to stop people from watching Sound of Freedom. That's what they're alluding to, in my opinion. I'm sure somebody's going to tell me I'm wrong, but that's what it definitely seems like, because they left the end of these TikTok videos like a little ambiguous, where they're just like, oh, I don't know. This is very strange. Why would they break the AC? Why would they stop the screening? Why would they issue refunds and do all this stuff? And another TikToker went and watched the film, and in the last 30 minutes of the film, the fire alarm went off. So they had to evacuate everybody, and they lost all that time with the film, and they were issuing refunds there too. So a couple things with these couple of controversies. First of all, most of those theaters are AMC theaters, right? And I hate to break it to y'all, AMC is not the best theater chain in the country, for a few reasons. First of all, there's a lot of teenagers that work there. It's like a great summer job, and it's the summertime, so all the kids are kind of working there as like a summer job kind of thing, and not the entire fucking industry is ran by kids, but you know what I mean. It's just these kids are just kind of doing their best and whatnot, and they can only do what they can. So if an AC is broken, what are they gonna do about it? Throw a fucking wrench at it and cross their fingers, hope it works? I mean, come on. Like, there's so many times where I have watched a film and it was like the last fit. There was a movie, The Master. I remember watching The Master. I think it was at an AMC theater a long time ago with the Paul Thomas Anderson film. Great movie with Joaquin Phoenix, Philip Seymour Hoffman, rest in peace. And I was enthralled with this movie. I was in. It was very weird, but I was enthralled. And it was like the last 15 minutes, and then the fire alarm went off. And I was with my dad at the time, and he was even just like, "Are you fucking kidding me? What is wrong with these people?" So we had to go outside. It was like the beginning of summer, I think, and we just stood out there outside for like at least an hour. And then we got back in, and half of the theater just like left, got their refunds and just fucking and left. We were the other half of those that were just like, I mean, we're here. We might as well just fucking just finish it. Doesn't matter. So, but there's other films that do the same shit. Tron is another one, but I think that was like for Regal Cinemas. But basically, like, long story short, all of these theater chains are always going to have problems no matter what. The fact that, like, people think that AMC it kind of has this elaborate ruse of like stopping people from watching the movie. A good way of combating people, or at least stopping them from watching that said movie, is if AMC removes the movie completely. And by the way, they have all the power to do that, right? They have all the power to say, yeah, we're not going to screen this movie, so go fuck yourself, And they have every right to do that. Same thing with Regal. It's the same with any other cinema, even independent-owned cinemas, right? So I just thought that controversy was definitely weird. Another controversy, and I think I'm going to wrap it up with the Sound of Freedom talk, because it's just all the controversy was way more interesting than the film itself. That's so mean for me to say. I'm so sorry. The film is fine. Again, it's okay, right? But I gotta hand it to TikTok. You guys, you motherfuckers, really know how to stir up like great drama, and I think it's fun. I don't agree. I'm not politically agreeing with any of y'all, like, at all, by any stretch of the imagination, but I do find it entertaining and I do find it fascinating. Because another controversy that I saw, which was easily debunked and explained, was that this one TikToker was in a movie theater in a sold out screening of Sound of Freedom, and the person was filming an entirely empty theater, like an entire empty screening. And he just like put in like question marks, like, "Oh, what does this mean? Why this was a sold out thing and now nobody's here? That's very strange. I don't understand why." And basically, the way to explain this, I'm going to say it as quick as I possibly can. Angel Studios, who are their own, I guess, distribution platform, but also marketing I don't know, but it doesn't matter. Anyways, Angel Studios has this whole thing of like, if you purchase a ticket through their website, Angel Studios, if you pay for an extra ticket, you can send a ticket to somebody who can't afford it, or whatever circumstances they're in, they can watch the film for free, and you just join in a wait list, and you can get one of those tickets. I don't know if that applies to all the films from Angel Studios, but at least for Sound of Freedom, that's what they do. And for Sound of Freedom, they raised, like, it was supposed to be like a $5 million threshold, and it got to like almost $8 million or something like that, or at least over $7 million. So they ousted their goal completely. And why do they have a goal in the first place? I don't really know. Other than that, like, to show like how many people like want others to see this film, which, again, rightfully so. I understand people really love this film. They want to talk about it and whatnot. And word of mouth is, as everybody knows, the most powerful advertising you could possibly get, because you're getting a real human being telling you, "Hey, I seen this movie," or "I watched this show. You please watch this thing so we can talk about it, or you can enjoy it and whatever." I just I don't I mean Angel Studios has a really good way of doing this, but you know, again, it goes back to the conspiracy shit where, you know, you could buy a movie ticket, but that doesn't guarantee you that that person will also claim that ticket and go to that movie theater. So people were just buying tickets left and right, I guess, you know, to get people to watch the film, which again is a great thing, but like that's your explanation as to why like you show up to a theater like, huh, did they just disappear? Were they abducted? What happened? Is it because that's what they were alluding to, and I saw some of the comments too on certain videos that was just like, oh man, they must have fucking, it must have been a white van situation. They were just like taken and fucking thrown into a van and taken somewhere else for anybody who purchases these tickets. It's like, again, it's the same notion of like AMC wanting to cut the AC because they want to prevent people from watching Sound of Freedom. I don't know any company that wants to prevent people from buying their shit and then not participating in it. You know what I mean? That's kind of such an ass backwards business model that like, oh, yeah, we're going to take your money, but we're also going to kidnap you to keep you from watching Sound of Freedom, which is a very, very crazy thing. So anyways, that's been that for Sound of Freedom. It's okay. You know, out of 10, I give it a light 5, hard 4. Just because like there is potential for this film to be the way it should be if the writers just adhere to only the character and what the character's, you know, goals, aspirations, wants, and needs are, which wasn't ultimately answered throughout the film. He wants to save children, I know that, but why? Why does he want to save children? What makes these two kids so special to him that he will fight the ends of the earth and still feel broken despite the fact that he saved over 200, almost 300 fucking, or arrested almost 300 traffickers, right? It's like, okay, so if this means a lot to you, like let's get into why. Not just that one scene with the Homeland Security director, but actually express and go through why the case is, right? Or you go for the, you know, for the overall plot of like, this is for the kids and we got to focus on the kids and this is a global issue that we need to focus on. Either way, I think it was okay. I do wish that the director Alejandro Monteverde makes more shit. Because I'm excited, because I think his directing style, his way of shooting, was very interesting. He did a lot of like wide shots, which I love a good wide shot, and I think I think there's a lot more potential, and you know, I it just wasn't for me. It wasn't for me. What did you guys think? Let me know, please. And let's just move on, I guess. Or I guess we can end it. How many minutes? It's 50 minutes. Okay. Well, I don't know. I wanted to talk about the strikes, but at the same time, I think what's said has already been said about the strikes. You know, Bob Iger and all these billionaires are just kind of fucking assholes for saying that this is inconvenient, or, you know, this is very disturbing, why and actors have to strike and writers have to strike, because they ultimately know, right? There's lots of starving people out there who need work, who need jobs, who probably don't even want to strike, but they have no choice because it's either they suffer with the shit that they have currently and always, or they actually stand up and believe in what they want and what they need, especially when it comes to fairness, right? Then you got to fight that fight. And I implore everybody to join that, especially for me. I mean, look, it's scary for me being in the film industry, working in the art department, because usually in the summer it's been kind of slow, kind of whatever. But when you get to the fall, I don't know what's going to happen, because usually around like end of August, September, middle of September, it usually really picks up for me. I don't know what's going to happen. As long as these strikes are happening, who knows? Because most of the sets that I've worked on are Screen Actor Guild actors. There's been definitely several sets where I've worked on that, there aren't anybody who are part of unions and whatnot, but most of those actors are. And that's very, 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 very important, because this is again about fairness and everyone's rights of having fucking insurance and going to the doctors and making money that they don't have to feel like they're gonna lose their house, or they're gonna lose their all of their benefits and whatnot, because they just can't keep up with payments, or they're not getting paid enough, and so they can't be qualified for certain things. I think it's just fucked up either way. I think it's fucked up, and I think the studios need to do something about it, and that's that. There was a couple of things that I want to talk about. I mean, not really. Not really. I did see a tweet though that was interesting, and I guess we can wrap it up here. Okay, so in the midst of all these strikes, talking about strikes, there was a tweet that I saw by Boots Riley, who is a director who made Sorry to Bother You, one of the like such a hilarious and phenomenal film that I highly recommend if anybody hasn't seen it. Lakeith Stanfield, I think Tessa Thompson's in it too. Yeah, it's such a great movie. Highly recommend. He made a tweet that was very interesting, or at least he quote tweeted. And that was it was discussing the Batman films, the Nolan Batman films, which I kind of had this like, I never really thought about it in this way, and I don't know how I feel about it. So hopefully, if you guys listen to this or watch this, maybe we can talk about this, right? So this tweet that was being quoted by Boots Riley, the original tweet was, Nolan made 3 movies where Batman, 1, fights an Al-Qaeda stand-in, 2, uses mass surveillance and a noble lie to give Gotham Police a Patriot Act named after one of the most corrupt lawyer ever, and 3, fights an Occupy Wall Street stand-in controlled by the Al-Qaeda stand-in. So, and of course, the original tweet from that tweet was nothing funnier than the people who think Christopher Nolan could possibly have made a pro-nuclear bomb movie, talking about Oppenheimer, which, I mean, I don't know. I don't know his political affiliation. I do know that Chris Nolan is very much about the actor strike, which anybody who isn't about the actor strike, I mean, you're kind of signing yourself a death warrant, because you're basically telling all the actors like, oh, fucking suck it up. I want to make movies. Fucking come back to set now. That would be a crazy fucking tone deaf thing to say, right? So then let me tell you what Boots Riley said in response to that. They actually quickly rewrote Batman because Occupy was happening while/right before they were filming. It made it so that the newly added Occupy-like movement, which in reality was happening in every city and town in the U.S., was in league with the villain. Which is true, because this was back in 2012. And Occupy was around that time as well. And I think Dark Knight Rises was came out in 2012. And I'm gonna have to go back and watch the trilogy again. I think that's very interesting, and I'll give my 2 cents onto it. But I think that's an interesting way of seeing this. I don't necessarily know if it's 100% true, but I mean, like, this is a film director who probably has information on what was happening with the whole Batman series and especially Dark Knight Rises. So yeah, I think this is an interesting thing to see because, I mean, look, these movements and these things are very, very big for our understanding in shaping our politics and shaping how we are socially. And I think these movements between Occupy and all this, I think these movements are positive, including Black Lives Matters. They're all very, 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 very positive because ultimately the country has been sort of at the way it's always been. Like the Screen Actors and the Writers Guild, right? They've done the same shit for years, never gotten compensated or never been acknowledged of their hard work, and just sort of been casted aside and not being treated fairly. As a lot of these protests happen and a lot of these movements happen, it is because of that what sparks a protest or a strike in everything. So I just think this is very, very interesting. I don't know if Christopher Nolan is pro capitalist dude. He might. I don't know, but it doesn't stop me from watching what could possibly be a pro nuclear bomb movie. I don't know anything about Oppenheimer, but I did hear that it is one of the most is one of the best Nolan films there are, which is a very huge fucking thing to say, and it's not like my expectations are going to be way too fucking high. But listen, if it's good, it's good. You know what I mean? I don't even know when I'm going to see it, just because there's I got too many things happening, and hopefully I will get my ass out there to see it. So that's about it, ladies and gentlemen. I am tired and I am hungry. Okay, so thank you so much for tuning in. I will hopefully be back tomorrow. I don't know. But I'm going to do this as often as I possibly can. I love doing this. I love hanging out and just talking to a camera and microphone, even if nobody is watching, even nobody is listening. I enjoy doing this because it feels like I could get my thoughts just barfed out there so that I don't need to succumb my poor friends and family to listen to all of my shit when most of them are not even in the film industry to begin with, and they don't give a shit about my dichotomy of what a story should or shouldn't be, or what a good story is, what a bad story is. I mean, and who am I to say? So yeah, I don't know what else to say other than I love you, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.